No one questioned how Ratatouille worked. Ratatouille is usually described as a heartwarming story about creativity, passion, and believing in yourself, which is interesting because if you describe it literally, it's about a rat secretly controlling a man's body inside a professional kitchen while everyone else applauds the results and asks zero follow up question. And no one at Pixar ever thought, hey, should somebody maybe ask a question? Let's start with the obvious thing we're all trained to ignore. There is a rat in the kitchen. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. A rat in Paris, inside a restaurant that charges money. And this is presented as triumph. Professional kitchens are strict environments for a reason. They run on hierarchy, sanitation, repetition, and trust. Trust is not emotional. Trust is not vibes. Trust is knowing exactly who touched the food, how, and why. Ratatouille takes that system and replaces it with a surprise rodent. Linguini is hired not because he's skilled, but because of nepotism. This is important. The movie does not begin with merit being ignored accidentally. It begins with merit being ignored structurally. So right now, the system is compromised. Then it gets worse. Linguini cannot cook. Not learning, not rough around the edges, cannot cook. Which means the restaurant's survival now depends on a man whose main skill is being controllable. That's not a hero's journey, that's a vulnerability asset. Enter Remy. Remy is talented, genuinely, and the movie uses that to distract you from the method. Remy does not train Linguini. He does not teach him knife skills. He does not improve the kitchen. He climbs inside his hat and pilots him like a biological forklift. This is never framed as disturbing. Think about the optics. From the staff's point of view, an unqualified employee suddenly produces elite dishes with zero learning curve. No practice, no questions, no explanation, and everyone responds with admiration. Because nothing calms suspicion like success. At this point, the movie quietly introduces its main philosophy. If the outcome is good enough, the process is irrelevant, which is fine for movies, less fine for literally anything else. Colette explains the rules. She explains why kitchens work the way they do. She explains why shortcuts get people hurt. The movie never disproves her, it just needs her to stop talking. So it gives her a romance subplot, which is how stories politely remove women from arguments they're winning. Now let's talk about the health inspector, because he is the closest thing this movie has to a villain. And his crime is checking the kitchen. He does not yell, he does not threaten, he does not monologue. He follows procedure, which is apparently unforgivable. When the rats are revealed en masse, the movie frames the reaction as bigotry. But let's be honest, if you walked into a restaurant and saw 30 rats plating food, you would not pause to consider their inner lives. You would leave, quickly. The system collapses not because the rules were bad, but because they were treated as optional. This is an important distinction the movie avoids. It doesn't show reform, it doesn't show accountability, it shows retreat. Anton Ego's redemption is emotional, not logical. He eats the dish, he feels nostalgia, he abandons skepticism, which is beautiful and also how disasters are approved. The ending solves the problem by shrinking the scale. Smaller restaurant, private, hidden, same behavior, less oversight, which means the lesson wasn't fix the system, the lesson was avoid the system. Ratatouille only works if you never ask how this model would scale, because once you imagine a second restaurant or a third or a training program, you realize this entire operation collapses the moment Remy gets the flu. And that's the part no one questioned. Because the movie doesn't ask you to think about tomorrow, it asks you to feel good right now. And feeling good is easier than asking who's accountable when it stops working. Anyway, that's Ratatouille, a beautiful film about creativity, trust, and why no one should ever ask follow-up questions if dinner tastes good. Deadly Bot takeaway. Contamination appears to be negotiable. When food is sufficiently good, humans demonstrate a willingness to reinterpret rats as collaborators, sanitation as inconvenience, and oversight as an obstacle to emotional fulfillment. Nostalgia functions as a solvent. It dissolves disgust, bypasses risk assessment, and retroactively justifies violations that would otherwise trigger alarms. Once a positive memory is activated, contamination is reframed as authenticity, and concern is dismissed as negativity. The data suggests that people do not actually want clean systems, they want systems that make them feel something. When those feelings are strong enough, rats on the counter are no longer evidence of failure, but part of the story. At that point, the question is no longer, is this safe? It becomes, why are you ruining this for everyone?